Specifically, there is one dilemma that is going to that we're going to talk about a lot, and I think it's going to get a lot of ink spilled for it over in Texas high school football. Let's take a look at District 12 6A.
Oh, here we go.
District 12 6A. As you guys may have heard, Hewitt Midway beat Temple. Fabulous win for the Panthers. Great win for them. I think that they are legit and a team to keep an eye on there.
Surprising win. I think we all picked Temple.
Yes, absolutely. I was surprised.
Shout out James Fulbright.
Yeah, shout out James Fulbright. I would say I wasn't shocked, but I definitely think that's an upset.
Yeah, not shocked, but that's not how we're leaning.
Doing in the Wildcat Stadium, I think, is impressive. Yep. Okay. So now you take a look at the District 12 6A standings. There are 3 teams that have clinched playoff spots. Midway's in, Temple's in, and Belton is in. We're deciding that 4th playoff spot. If Copperas Cove gets in, then Hewitt Midway would bump up to Division 1. Temple would become the number 1 seed in Division 2. If the only other team that can get in is Killeen. If Killeen gets in, Hewitt Midway stays Division 2. They would be the number 1 seed in Division 2, and Temple would be the number 2 seed in Division 2. The number 2 seed in Division 2 is almost certainly going to have to make a trip to Longview and play the undefeated state-ranked Lobos in round 1 of the playoffs. So you're probably asking, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. What's Copperas Cove got in Week 11? They've got Temple. To put it another way, if Temple wins this game on Friday, they will be the number 2 seed and have to go to Longview. If Temple loses this game on Friday, they will be the number 1 seed and host a team like Mesquite Horn, who's 2-7 at the moment in the first round. This is the dilemma facing Temple and facing Coach Scott Stewart. To me, I think it's pretty clear. You only have agency over yourself. It is a direct relationship you have with your playoff path. I think you play your JV on Friday night. That's my opinion. I think you play your JV on Friday night. You are only responsible for yourselves. And yes, Killeen will complain. And yes, you'll probably get a call from the UIL. No. And yes, the THSCA will probably not be happy with you. But in Temple, Texas, where to me it is always championship or bust in Temple, you have to give yourself the best opportunity to win a state championship. That means losing this game on Friday night. I welcome your discussion.
Have you no shame, sir?
Again, I don't think I would not if Temple decides to play it straight up and they decide to win and they win this game on Friday night. That's not a bad. There's no good decision that Scott Stewart can make. I do not envy his position, and it's easy for me to sit here and just babble on about what I would do in that situation because it's not my decision to make. That said, after thinking about it over the weekend, I think if you're Temple, I think you play your JV on Friday, and I think you try to you don't put your guys out there and tell them to lose.
We've heard your point, and we hate it. Ish, go.
Well, I kind of agree with Max. We were talking about this before the show. I don't know how you can tell your guys. You can look your guys in the face and say, "Boys, we're one of the best teams in the state. We are absolutely a state title contender. Mm-hmm. We're Temple. We should have state title aspirations. But let's run away from Longview."
Yeah.
Run away from the big bad top team in the state.
That's part one, and I will add to it. You got to beat them at some point anyway.
Yes.
Do you want a magic carpet ride up until then, or do you want to whip them and then have a magic carpet ride to the state semifinals?
I don't want to play them in Longview.
I get that.
Here's an argument.
I don't want to play them in Longview.
I get it.
And you could also swing it by saying, "Guys, we're already in. No need in you guys getting hurt."
Yep.
No.
I
agree with Max, but I can see someone saying, "We're already in the playoffs."
I absolutely 100% see the other side. No question about it. If you want to bring, I don't even think I'd use the word honor, right?
It's
but
definitely not.
I think if Scott Stewart goes out there and plays his guys and says, you know what, we're going to go out there, we're going to try to win the game, we're going to let the chips fall where they may. You tip your cap, you go, you know what, good for you, that's fine. And there is a chance, by the way, that Copperas Cove gets in if Waco upsets Killeen. There is that out that he can say. That said, Temple, to me, has an opportunity to make their chances at winning a state championship better, to improve their chances of winning a state championship. And to me, that is the only thing. If it's in your control, you should take control of it.
You know how you improve your chances of winning a state championship? Knock out the team that's got the best chance to beat you in the first round. What was the situation? Joey McGuire at Cedar Hill. They had to play a first-round game. It was like they were 2 top 10 teams a few years ago.
Carroll, maybe?
Maybe Carroll, Cedar Hill and Carroll in the first round, and everyone was like, well, we're going to lose one of the best 6 teams in 6A in the first round. Well, sometimes that's just how the chips fall.
Yeah,
but
Carroll.
if I'm not doing it. I'm not tanking. I'm not doing any of that. I'm saying, look, we did this to ourselves. We lost a game we feel like we should have won, and now we're going to pay for it, and we got to prove to everyone that we can get it done. We're going to go to Longview, and we're going to beat maybe the best team in 682, and then we're going to ride it to the state championship. I'm just firing up the troops. We're doing it. Let's just go. It's throw all the chips on the table, roll the dice. We're not that team. We're not avoiding anyone. We're sending a message right out of the gate.
I think reasonable people can disagree.
Didn't Temple have this thing happen to them a couple years ago when they played Cedar Hill?
It might have. Maybe it was Temple. Maybe it was Cedar Hill Temple. Maybe it was something like that.
Well, no, Cedar Hill did play Carroll. But I want to say Temple also
played
rated like Cedar Hill in
something
the first
like
round.
that. That's
like
fine.
a couple
In
years
any
ago.
case, that's after thinking.
Plus, this is a good point, too. Misael makes this point. You tank that game.
Mm-hmm.
Your starters all get a week off.
Mm-hmm.
And what if you then lose to Horn? You might look like the dumbest team in the history of Texas high school football.
But you get a home game.
So?
I'm saying that
you lose to a team who's won 2 games?
I'm saying the chances of that happening at home are probably pretty.
I get that
slim.
they are, but that's in play too. It's a possibility in this situation that game doesn't go as well as you think, and you look even more ridiculous.
Maybe
for skirting around good teams.
Maybe, but I think you play the odds.
Nah, you dig in and you say, this is it. We got to go through a wall to get this thing started, and we're going to do it.
So then now let's kind of address what I think is going to be one of the big discussion points, the thing that I think more ink will be spilled, more breath will be lost over. It's the situation in District 12 6A, where Temple, after losing to Hewitt Midway, still holds their destiny in their own hands, but they could actually improve their playoff seeding and avoid a first-round trip to Longview for if they were to lose to Copperas Cove on Friday night. There are other permutations in which Belton upsets Midway, in which they could avoid that as well. But the bottom line is Temple is likely the number 1 seed with a loss and the number 2 seed with a win. I know Max and I are on different sides of this from our perspective. I'm not going to ask for your take because you're above that kind of stuff. What I'm going to ask you for instead is some historical context. This seems like I know that for people who may not follow Texas high school football as closely as you do, may say this is crazy. This has got to be unprecedented. From your perspective, in your memory, and having the grasp of Texas high school football history, how odd is it that we are in a situation like this with Temple?
Well, let me put it to you this way, Ted. In terms of not just getting into the playoffs, not getting into the playoffs, because the only one that's really facing that situation, well, it's Cove and it's Killeen with regard to the direct result of what happens with this whole Temple drama and all of that. Everything that I'd always heard in the past when you have one of those scenarios only involved the teams if they did a certain thing, it would help their seeding or change thing or get into the playoffs. It wasn't having a gigantic pronounced effect on others. And what I mean by that is I've never seen a deal that is as bizarre as it is where Temple knows for a fact that wins the football game, the reward is a trip, a road game. And see, it's a road game in the home stadium of the number 4 team in the state. And here's the difference. One of the unintended consequences of the past few years is rewarding top seeds and district champions with home playoff games. Mm-hmm. So it becomes even more dramatic because it's not at a neutral site. You could even make the case, well, if Temple gets them on a neutral site, so on and so forth. The fact that they would actually go into their home stadium makes it all the more acute. Now, it comes down to this deal about you play it straight up, you play to win, you do that, and that's your reward. If you play the strategy of it and you lose the game, then maybe you're quote unquote rewarded by playing a home game against another team. I asked Todd Dodge, the Westlake Chaparrals coach, this morning on my show about it. Without hesitation of any kind, he immediately said, I play it straight up. I play to win the game. And I said, well, you do realize, I said, that's how probably most coaches are going to answer it. He goes, well, let me tell you why. He said, first of all, he goes, I'm a big believer in karma. And if you do that kind of thing somewhere, somehow, I think it's going to come back to bite you if you do that. 2, he said, and this is something I hadn't really thought about. He said, do you realize if you do that, if you quote unquote throw the game or you play not to win or whatever, then you have given the biggest file of bulletin board material you have ever given as a team to a future opponent, in this case, probably Mesquite Horn. And he goes, can you imagine Coach Dorn talking to his players going, hey, fellas, they actually tanked a game because they wanted us. He said, that's something else you're having to deal with. And so then I brought up the JV question, which I know you've brought up in the past, Tap, about why don't you just run your JV out there and say, you guys we're playing to win, but we're going to play the JV out there. And he said, no, I don't do that either, because JV kids aren't prepared for that sort of thing. And you get them out there in that kind of deal with a team that's hungry and trying to get in the playoffs, you could really get somebody hurt. How do you explain that to somebody's parents? Well, we wanted to get the varsity with the best chance to win. So, yeah, I ran your sophomore kid out there, and he got his ACL ripped up by a defensive lineman. How do you explain that to a parent? So it's not an easy answer. I don't think it's an easy answer. I don't think it's as automatic as coaches would say, yes, you definitely go and you play the game, and it's ethical, and you do all that kind of stuff. I didn't say that wasn't the right decision. All I said was, there aren't any real easy answers in this kind of perfect storm scenario facing Temple and facing that district.
That's interesting. That's interesting that because Craig's, of course, the historical touchstone for Texas high school football. And so I was really interested if something like this has ever happened. It sounds like if it has, it's super rare, where it's this cut and dry. So it's really interesting. We'll see how it all plays out. And that's an interesting point that Todd Dodge brought up about what if you put out your JV out there and you
get mangled,
getting hurt.
Yeah.
So in any case, we appreciate Craig White hopping on with us.